Greetings, guys. Today we are going to learn about one of my favorite artists. His name is Robert Indiana. He was born Robert Clark in 1926. However, in his career, he changed his name to Robert Indiana. He did this because many famous artists, their last name was the place that they were originally from. And Robert Indiana, just like me, is from Indiana. So maybe my name should be Mrs. Indiana. I don't know. But Robert Indiana has created a vast array of work. This is some of his early works. He is best known for using words to create meaning in his art. The first piece of art that he made that he really gained critical acclaim for was this sculpture. First, he created a graphic representation, which you can see over here on the right, and then he turned it into a sculpture. Now, he used steel to create these sculptures. These sculptures are also quite large, as you can see here, where the sculpture is displayed within a museum. It is approximately 10 feet tall, and it weighs hundreds of pounds because it is steel that has been welded together. This art sculpture really catapulted his career and his creative process into making more sculptures that use words to create meaning and steel to create a more 3D sculpture. His most famous works are this love sculpture, and he did it over and over and over again in many different colors, shapes, and sizes. This particular sculpture is the first one, and it is located in the Indianapolis Museum of Art. It has a rusted patina, which is a fancy way of saying it was outside for a long time and nature allowed it to rust. So, about 2 years ago, the curators at the Indianapolis Museum of Art, in conjunction with a show commemorating Robert Indiana, they restored it back to a more original form and moved it inside. Now, there are many other examples of the love sculpture throughout the world. These are two. The one on the left is in Times Square in New York City, and that person is me. I saw it in 2011. And the sculpture on the left is in Philadelphia. They are both constructed out of steel. Now, Robert Indiana branched out from love slightly in that he also made sculptures similar using the word love in different languages. It has love in Spanish and Hebrew here. Robert Indiana also created the same kind of letters using numbers. And these numbers, 1 through 9 with 0 included, are located on the grounds of the Indianapolis Museum of Art. They originally were placed throughout the grounds and throughout Indianapolis. You can see 7 and 8 here are on city streets because there's cars in the background and there's lots of snow. Well, as anything that is made out of metal that stays out in the elements too long, they started to have some issues. And so they were moved to a sculpture garden that has some shelter from the elements in the Indianapolis Museum of Art. And it is right here. Before I worked at Freiheit, used to work at the Indianapolis Museum of Art. And so I have had considerable time with these works of art, and they are very fun, and they get very, very hot in the summer. So I don't recommend crawling in them, and very, very, very cold in the winter. So Robert Indiana, in 2006 also created the Hope logo that was used in the Barack Obama campaign. So, in the 60s and 70s, Robert Indiana lived in New York City. He originally came from Indiana, and then he went to the same college as Mrs. Coleman for her master's. We both went to the Heron School of Art, but Robert Indiana then got his degrees from the Art Institute of Chicago. So he lived in Chicago for a while, and then he moved to New York City. And in New York City is where he made it as a commercial artist and sculptor. However, he then got really sick of the city life, and after probably 20 years decided to work in Maine. And this building right here is his studio and home in Maine. Now, he never had any children or any relatives. So what he did was he wanted to create somewhere for all of his work that I'm showing you here to be displayed. So he created a foundation and turned it into a museum upon his death. And so he died 2 years ago, and they are in the process of creating a museum to display all of Robert Indiana's works of art in this museum or in this building. So please let me know if you have any questions about Robert Indiana, but we are now going to create a work of art based on Robert Indiana.